I opened my mailbox and felt my stomach drop. A thick envelope from a financing company I didn't recognize. My name, my address, all correct, but I'd never heard of Silverline Auto Group. I tore it open right there on the curb, barely noticing the neighbor's dog barking behind me. Inside was a payment schedule and a congratulatory letter on my recent luxury purchase, a fully loaded BMW 7 Series. Price? $65,043.41. Monthly payments? Nearly $1,100. I felt dizzy. I didn't buy a damn BMW. Then came the forged signature. My name, neat, loopy cursive that mimicked mine closely, but it wasn't mine. I stood there, rereading the first page until the lines blurred. A second letter followed, a formal loan agreement, signed, dated, and stamped. My credit, my identity, my life, used like a pawn ticket. I walked back inside, shut the door, and sat on the floor of my kitchen like a guy who just got sucker punched. For a full 10 minutes, I stared at the documents, trying to explain the unexplainable. I hadn't lost my wallet. I hadn't been hacked. There were no strangers involved. And somehow, deep down, I already knew who did it. I called my mom. She answered with that airy, guilt-sugar voice she uses when she's cornered. Hi, honey. Everything okay? Did someone in the family buy a BMW using my name? Pause. Silence. Then, Jason, don't overreact. That's when the full-body nausea hit. I'd spent years building my credit, pulling myself out of debt after college, working 60-hour weeks to get promoted at the architecture firm. I didn't come from money. My family never helped, not when I couldn't afford rent, not when I skipped meals to keep the lights on. And now? Now they thought I was their personal bank. It was just a signature, Jay, my mom finally said. You're doing so well. You can afford it. I couldn't speak. Couldn't scream. Couldn't even cry. I hung up. Then I drove straight to a lawyer. Natalie Hoffman. Clean office, sharp blazer, eyes like steel. I spilled everything, and she listened like a detective, not a therapist. Your family committed fraud, she said, flipping through the documents. This isn't just unethical. It's criminal. I nodded, the rage still boiling under my skin. I wasn't sure who I was angrier at, my parents, my reckless brother Tyler, or myself for not seeing it coming. They stole from me, I said quietly. Natalie leaned back in her chair. And now you make them regret it. That was the moment I changed. Something hardened in me. I'd spent 29 years playing the reliable son, the fixer, the good one. Not anymore. I wish I could say the BMW incident came out of nowhere, that it was some tragic anomaly. But the truth is, it was just the final betrayal in a lifetime full of smaller ones, each one buried under guilt, obligation, and the lie we call family loyalty. I grew up thinking love meant sacrifice, my sacrifice. When I got my first job at 16, my mom asked me to give part of my paycheck to help with groceries. I didn't question it. When Tyler crashed his car in high school, I drained my college savings to help with repairs because he needed it more. I told myself I was being a good brother. They told me I was. Over and over again. It didn't stop when I moved out. If anything, the request just evolved. My parents never said thank you. They just expected. Tyler would text me things like, need $200 for rent. I'll pay you back Friday. Friday never came. He once took a flight to Vegas with the money I gave him to pay his electric bill. The worst part? I kept giving. Every time I said no, my mom would get quiet. My dad would sigh like I'd let them down, and Tyler would act like I was some greedy corporate shill. A few months before the BMW mess, I tried to reset the boundaries. I planned a family weekend, rented a cabin, paid for everything, even stocked the fridge. I thought maybe if I gave them something joyful, they'd start seeing me differently. As someone they could value, not just use. We made it 12 hours before Tyler got drunk and accused me of flaunting my success. My dad nodded in agreement. My mom just said, well, you do act superior sometimes. I left early. I cried the whole drive home. Then last week, right before I found the car invoice, my mom called and asked if I could help Tyler again. I almost laughed. It was a script at this point. Help him how? He's between jobs. He just needs a little boost. Maybe covered his car insurance for a month or two. That's when something in me cracked. Does Tyler even have a job history? Or just a resume made of handouts? Silence. Then the guilt trip started. Jason, don't be cruel. We didn't raise you to talk like that. No, they raised me to be convenient. Later that night, I vented to my friend Mark. He's been my anchor through all this, someone who sees it for what it is. Dude, Your family doesn't see you as a person, he said bluntly. You're just a walking ATM with a conscience. Cut them off. Cold. It felt harsh. Too final. But maybe that's what I needed. Because the more I looked back, the clearer the pattern became. Every favor, every little help, was just more weight tied around my ankles while they stayed floating. I had spent my entire life trying to earn their respect. Turns out, they were never going to give it. December rolled around, and for once, I told myself I wasn't going to initiate anything. No, what's the plan for Christmas? Texts. No offers to buy gifts for everyone. No booking a flight home. I just wanted to see if they'd remember me without the benefit of my wallet or effort. Weeks passed. Nothing. Then, on Christmas Eve, as I sat alone on my couch with a half-eaten takeout dinner and one string of lights I hung mostly out of obligation, I opened Instagram. I wasn't expecting anything. Maybe a picture of someone's tree, a snowy dog, a friend's baby in a Santa hat. What I saw made my thumb freeze mid-scroll. My entire family, my parents, Tyler, even Aunt Patricia from Arizona, smiling around a lavish Christmas dinner table. Matching pajamas. A caption that read, "Family is everything red heart hashtag Christmas blessings." Everything blurred. My heart didn't just sink, it disintegrated. No one told me. No invite. Not even a half-hearted, "we're getting together" message. They had erased me. Not forgotten, erased. Because I wasn't useful anymore. Because I'd started saying no. I stared at the screen so long my phone went dark. I called my mom. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed to hear what lie she'd come up with. "Oh, honey," she said with faux surprise. It was very last minute. Just a small thing. A lie. I could see the elaborate decorations, the catering trays, the coordinated outfits. Aunt Patricia flew in from Arizona. She paused. Well, she happened to be visiting. It just worked out. My chest tightened. "You didn't even want me there." "That's not fair," she snapped. "We just assumed you were busy. You're always so wrapped up in your work." Wrapped up in my work? That was the excuse now? That night, I didn't cry. I didn't even rage. I felt nothing. Just quiet. I texted Aunt Patricia the next day. She always liked me more than the others, and she never played dumb. Her response was simple. "Your mom said you needed space. That you were in a weird place emotionally and didn't want to be included." I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to pry. So that was it. Not just exclusion, but narrative control. They were already rewriting the story, painting me as the ungrateful one, the distant one, the unstable one. Mark called later that day and insisted I come to his place. "We're making lasagna and watching Die Hard. Come be with real people." I hesitated. Then I went. Mark's family was loud, imperfect, but warm. His dad shook my hand like I mattered. His mom shoved a plate in front of me and said, "Eat like someone loves you." I did. That was the first Christmas I spent outside my bloodline. And the first time I realized how good that could feel. They didn't forget me. They just chose life without me. It was early February when the next envelope arrived. I hadn't heard from my family since the Christmas freeze-out, and part of me hoped it might be some kind of olive branch, maybe even an apology. Instead, it was a stack of loan documents. Thicker than the first batch. Pages and pages of official paperwork, notarized forms, and itemized statements. At the top of the pile, BMW Financial Services, loan consolidation package. I sat at my desk in stunned silence. I hadn't contacted the dealership since my first visit to Natalie, but this wasn't from the dealership. It was from my mother. She'd mailed it from her address, paper clipped with a handwritten note. "Thought you might as well have the full record. It's under your name, after all." I flipped to the final page. My forged signature again. And beside it, two more. One from a notary who either hadn't cared or had been tricked, and one from Tyler, boldly labeled as co-signer. But the real gut punch came with the note scrawled on the last page. A sticky note in Tyler's handwriting, unmistakable and arrogant. "You always said we were in this together. Figured you'd understand. Thanks, bro." I didn't scream. Didn't slam anything. My breath slowed. My hands went cold. The edges of the paper curled in my grip. That moment crystallized something in me. There was no misunderstanding, no miscommunication. This wasn't a mistake they thought I'd forgive. This was theft. It was control. It was family turning my life into collateral damage. I called Natalie that afternoon. She didn't ask if I was ready. She could hear it in my voice. "We're moving forward," I told her. "Criminal fraud, identity theft, whatever the full weight is, drop it on them." She paused. Are you sure? Once we start this, it's war. No halfway. I'm done with halfway. She nodded, then said something that stuck with me. This isn't about revenge. It's about rescue. You're pulling yourself out of a toxic fire they'd let you burn in. That night, I went through my accounts. I changed passwords, froze my credit, opened a new checking account at a different bank. I started pulling old emails, texts, anything that showed a pattern of manipulation or expectation. Tyler had left a trail a mile long. Need your social for this thing, one text read from 2 years back. It's nothing shady. Just a temp job app. I'd sent it without thinking. They'd been setting this up for years. I stayed up past midnight, scanning every document, highlighting inconsistencies. My hands trembled, but it wasn't fear, it was adrenaline. For the first time in my life, I wasn't playing defense. I was building a case. This wasn't going to be a quiet fade-out. No more polite distance or ignored calls. This was war. And I was finally ready to fight it. By the time I met Natalie in her office that Monday morning, I had everything we needed. My digital folder was bursting with screenshots, emails, bank notices, and years' worth of guilt-laced text messages. Natalie skimmed through it all, her brows tightening with every scroll. This isn't just a case, she said. It's a pattern. Long-term abuse of financial trust. They treated your identity like shared property. I nodded. I'd heard it all before, from Mark, from therapists, even from myself in moments of clarity. But hearing it from someone holding legal power made it feel real. Validated. I want to press charges, I said. Not civil. Criminal. Natalie looked me dead in the eyes. Okay. We go nuclear. She explained the process. Identity theft under state law was a felony. Fraudulent signatures on legal documents. Unauthorized use of a social security number. Bank fraud. The works. She began drafting the criminal complaint that afternoon. That same day, my father called my office. Not my cell. My boss. I found out from my manager, who pulled me into a side meeting looking vaguely uncomfortable. Hey, just so you know, we got a call from someone claiming to be your father. Said you were going through some mental instability and might be under legal investigation. My blood turned ice. He what? He sounded concerned, but it felt off. Like he was planting doubt. That's when it hit me. They weren't just trying to discredit me. They were trying to destroy me. I texted Natalie immediately. She responded within minutes, retaliation. Document it. Will include it. That night, I changed every password I had. Bank accounts. Email. LinkedIn. I set up fraud alerts and flagged my credit reports. I made sure they couldn't touch anything else I owned. Then I did something that felt both liberating and terrifying. I sent them a formal cease and desist. Natalie had drafted it with precision, cold, clear, and devastating. It spelled out the charges, the documentation, the consequences. It gave them 48 hours to respond before formal charges would be filed. Then I blocked every number. I shut the emotional faucet off. No more calls from my mom asking if I'd calmed down. No more texts from Tyler calling me dramatic. No more voicemails from my dad warning me that this would tear the family apart. They already tore it apart. I was just done pretending the pieces were still worth holding. I didn't sleep much that night. Every hour, I expected a knock at the door, a hateful email, a last-ditch plea. But it never came. Just silence. The kind that told me they were scrambling. Natalie called the next day. They received the notice. They've lawyered up. I exhaled slowly. Let them. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't protecting their secrets. I wasn't hiding their shame or excusing their behavior. I was protecting myself. The invitation came through Aunt Patricia. Sunday dinner. Just family. No drama. Your mom says she wants to talk face to face. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the message like it was a landmine. But Natalie and I had already discussed the possibility. They'll try to ambush you emotionally, she'd said. Play nice, act hurt, twist it into a misunderstanding. Should I go? I asked her. She didn't hesitate. Only if I come with you. So that Sunday, I walked into my parents' house, Natalie 10 steps behind me, all business, a slim black folder in hand. I hadn't been there in almost a year, but nothing had changed. Same smell of cheap cologne and overcooked food. Same dusty photos of Tyler's high school football trophies. Everyone was already seated. My mother rose from the table with a bright, forced smile. Jason, she said, arms half raised for a hug. We're so glad you came. I didn't move. My dad nodded from the head of the table. Let's eat first. Then we can talk. Tyler sat slouched, wearing an expensive hoodie and a smug smirk. He barely looked at me. We sat. The silence was knife-sharp. Mashed potatoes. Roast beef. A salad no one touched. My mother made small talk about the weather, about Aunt Patricia's troublesome knee, about the neighbor's new boat. Finally, she cleared her throat. So, about this legal situation. We feel like maybe things have gotten blown out of proportion. I leaned forward. Blown out of proportion? We never meant to hurt you, she continued quickly. You know how close this family is. Sometimes we blur lines. But this, it's a misunderstanding. My father cut in. You make good money, son. You're successful. It wasn't malicious. You committed fraud, I said flatly. Tyler snorted. Oh, come on. You're acting like we robbed a bank. I turned to him. You forged my name. Bought a luxury car. Let the payments slide into default. He shrugged. It's not like you can't afford it. I clenched my jaw, kept my eyes locked on his. You used my name, my credit, my life. And now I'm cleaning it up while you smirk like it's a joke. Then he leaned back and said something that shifted the air in the room. Maybe if you weren't such a selfish little control freak, we wouldn't have to go around you. Natalie set down her folder and stood. I'm Natalie Hoffman, Jason's attorney. I'm here today as a witness, not a participant. But I am authorized to deliver this. She slid a formal envelope across the table. My mom didn't reach for it. Neither did my dad. This is your final notice, Natalie said. Pay the debt in full, reimburse all legal costs, and agree to a formal no-contact order, or we proceed with criminal prosecution first thing Monday. You could hear the tick of the kitchen clock. My dad opened his mouth, but Natalie raised her hand. Anything you say now can and will be included in the case file. Choose your words carefully. No one spoke. For the first time in my life, I watched my parents and brother sit in absolute, stunned silence. No guilt trips. No lectures. Just stillness. I stood. Dinner was great, I said. But I'm full. Natalie followed me out the front door. We didn't look back. The 48-hour deadline came and went without a word. I didn't expect them to fold immediately. My family always believed they could wear people down with silence, guilt, or manipulation. They'd done it to each other for decades. They thought I was still the same Jason who'd cave if they just ignored the problem long enough. But this time, the problem was legally documented, and the clock was ticking. On the third day, the repo truck showed up. I wasn't there to see it, but Mark was. He texted me a blurry video from across the street. Tyler's beloved BMW, purchased with my name, my credit, was being winched up and hauled off like trash. Tyler stood on the curb in a bathrobe, shouting into his phone. My mother paced nearby, hands flailing. The group chat we all used in better years lit up with chaos. Call me now. What are you doing? You're ruining this family. I didn't answer a single one. Later that afternoon, Natalie called with an update. They want to settle, she said, her tone cautious but firm. They're not admitting guilt, but they've agreed to pay off the full amount of the car loan, reimburse all legal fees, and sign the no-contact order. I let out a long, quiet breath. They caved. No, she said. They collapsed. We signed everything that Friday. It felt surreal, like a funeral without a body. I wasn't celebrating. There were no champagne corks or revenge speeches. Just paperwork and closure. The no-contact clause was strict and legally binding. No emails. No texts. No indirect messages through family friends. If they broke it, the charges came back in full force. They paid the debt in full within a week. Aunt Patricia sent me one last message before she unfollowed me on everything. It read, I wish things had turned out different, but I'm proud of you for standing up. And that was it. Months have passed. Life is quieter now, and lighter in a way I didn't expect. I no longer wake up with that low-level dread in my chest. I no longer brace for the next phone call, the next ask, the next emotional landmine. I got promoted at work. I started seeing someone who doesn't ask me to shrink myself to make them more comfortable. Mark and I still laugh about how everything blew up over a car, but deep down, we both know it was never really about the car. It was about finally choosing myself. I wasn't born to be their backup plan, their fallback wallet, or their emotional punching bag. I was born to live, to grow, to build a life that belonged to me. Walking away didn't break the family. It revealed they were never really holding me up to begin with. And now? Now I know what freedom feels like.